me. And I'm going to let John go on first.
I don't have any slides. My talk will be based on what's being handed out now. Okay? I'm a very happy man, I'm a very angry man. I'll explain that once you get into it. You can introduce yourself. Okay, my name is John Stewart-Park. I'm the director of the National AIDS Brigade. I'm going to base my talk on this handout, so you have to have the handout to follow what I'm saying, because I don't have any slides. So this is extremely important. Okay, so first let me say why I'm happy. I am happy to be here. The book that's been given out wasn't to promote this book. The book was not on sale or anything. But the window on page 50, it talks about, and this was mentioned twice during these previous few minutes or last hour, about someone jumping out of a window. Right across from this, where we are, right across from Dodge Hall, is a window that I thought of jumping out to save myself. Okay, page 50, it's in the middle of the page there. You can read about me looking over here, Dodge Hall, I don't mean Dodge Hall, and seeing a person here and maybe think this was a hospital, and that was a hospital. The screen was broken on the window. If I would jump out the window, it would be a way of giving up. It would be a big net that would catch me, and I would just give myself up to the hidden forces, to the culty. There was a program called MK Ultra. People have heard conspiracy theories. This is the real theory. This is the real something real. What you have, what this here is, this is an appendix to a lawsuit in federal court that explains MK Ultra and explains that the Boston area and Cape Cod were focused, in Nixon administration focused MK Ultra on those areas. It affected the Kennedy family. This lawsuit recommends that Chappaquiddick be investigated as being a part of this lawsuit validates that Senator Kennedy, Edward Kennedy, was a target of CONTELPRO, which is the FBI-CIA program, to try to stop the student protesters. It was 99% of it was focused in the Boston area and Cape Cod. So this is the federal lawsuit that's ongoing now. I have motions, they put a motion to dismiss, but in their motion to dismiss, they admitted facts. They said what he's saying is true, but it's filed too late. So I had to file a motion of opposition, which is going to win. So if anybody afterwards wants to see those, these documents, they can. So this information here is in a federal lawsuit now about what I'm going to tell you. Now, I'm angry. That's why I'm happy that I can be here right across from where I was jumped out the window, right maybe in the same room where I saw this guy that made me think it was a hospital. I thought he spun around or something. I thought, Jesus, this is a psychiatric hospital. There's a guy spinning around in a chair. And I thought that whole YMCA next door was a hospital. And I thought by jumping out the window was a way of giving up. But I didn't jump out the window. I said, well, if I die, they'll find me like this. I just became like stiff in the bed. But that's on page 50 of this book. Now, this book has a lot of anger in it because the AIDS Brigade has been shafted for years. And I'll explain this. We started the first needle exchange program in America. All right? We don't get any funding. We're all get all our money from private donations. I was at Yale Medical School, and a professor came in 1982 and 1983 and said, don't bother trying to treat the addicts with AIDS prevention because they won't change their behavior. This was before the gay community showed they could change. He said, do not attempt to educate an addict that won't change. Here I am, an ex-addict, hearing that. The AIDS Brigade started in 1983, the first AIDS prevention outreach in the world. A year later, in 1984, they started doing needle exchange in Amsterdam. We started in 86 doing needle exchange, the first one in America. After America, we went to Thailand, Vietnam, China. We worked in Southeast Asia for about 15 years. Now we're in Africa. In 2003, with other people from Africa, they're here. You can maybe see this through the telecom. In 2003, we went to Africa with Navarapine to prevent babes from getting AIDS, and we went there with clean needles. We didn't know in South Africa they had Navarapine for women. So we went there first, myself and a man sitting right here, Paul Smith. And they said, no, well, women here can help get the Ibogaine. So we said, okay, let's go to Zimbabwe. While we were in South Africa in 2003, Paul took a walk around the neighborhood and he saw all these dirty needles. Hundreds of addicts. It was so many addicts. Paul was like 100 feet away and he couldn't hear me yelling his name. One, Paul, Paul. But there was so many addicts that were like a drug bazaar buying heroin. And no one knew about it. So we included needle exchange in our efforts in Africa. Okay, now let me just say that we work in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, South Africa, and our focus now is in Africa. But the AIDS Brigade started because I'm an ex-addict, right? I went from jail to jail. I thought every day you had to suffer to get a paycheck. When I found out that you could have a happy life by helping people, I said, that's what my problem was solved. I knew I could have a good life. I didn't have to work work 5 days and then just get 2 days of being happy. I could be happy all the time. So I tried hard and I went to medical school. The reason why we do our work is to help people, not money. The AIDS Brigade doesn't make any funding because most people who go to conferences, except for this conference, are full of shit. They care about money. They choose money over human life. They just want power and money and prestige. That's what this industry is drawn. And we call them the AIDS whores. They suck off the epidemic for their own advantage. It's sad, but this book contains that anger. If you read the book, you can read the anger. Now, what I'm going to explain to you makes Ibogaine very important. There is a national emergency right now on the East Coast of America. And this is in the lawsuit. So people can get this here. Do people get this in front of them? The first page is a letter to Senator Kennedy. Okay? Because we protested there about MKUltra. Then we said, okay, let's forget about MKUltra. Help us with crack heroin. This contains letters from Senator Kennedy about crack heroin to Congress and such. But the first page talks about how in 1978 crack heroin was first came to New York City and how AIDS took off. Crack heroin is they process heroin with lidocaine and cocaine, things that have nitrogens, to make a different molecule. Now, I won't be long up here, but everybody see this first page? This first page is a letter to Senator Kennedy. Now, Obama has this information because there's a reverend in Chicago that got in trouble and saying that the government brought AIDS to the black population. Well, you want to know something? A few years back, 57% of the IV drug users in America were black. This letter doesn't mention that 30% were brown. The government knew about crack heroin and didn't do anything. But now it's affecting all colors. And it's too big of a deal. So just give me a few minutes and you'll understand crack heroin when I go through this. So that's the first thing. The first couple pages of the letter. Inside that, after the letter, is analysis. See that heroin does analysis? You see the lidocaine and procaine. And sometimes caffeine and cocaine, but they also have a nitrogen. Okay, if you go to, this is something you can take away from here. The whole East Coast now in America is crack heroin. Virtually crack heroin. If anything else comes around, they bust it. If this is okay by the government, and just stay with me and you'll see it. But before we get to that page, if you look at page IH, see page IH? There's number bag number 7. 10% lidocaine, 9% procaine. That bag gives you a heart attack. Lidocaine affects the heart. But one of our members died from it. The man who found his body stood a few feet away from me and said it was the most horrible thing he ever saw. There was a puddle on the bed, a puddle of this man's juices, his bile, his throw up, his piss, his puke. And then there was a trail leading to the bathroom. Halfway to the bathroom, he dropped his cell phone. He died at the toilet bowl. He said it was the most horrible sight he ever saw. This drug gives you a quicker habit, a stronger habit. Some people do 30, 40 bags at a time. If you do a bag that has 1,000 times more lidocaine than you need to create this crack heroin, like if you look at a sample, sometimes it's 0.01%, hundredth of a percent to change the molecule. Okay, so that's analysis. So what you can warn people is if they're shooting dope in the East Coast, you do a little bit first. If you get bad pins and needles, you get shakes. These guys aren't chemists who make it, right? So it's a bad bag. Now let me explain the history of this. We'll go to page IJ. 2 people sued the government and they got $1.5 million. You know what their lawsuit said? That the American government is letting a drug ring deal drugs illegally on the East Coast. And that's what's still going on today. And this drug is crack heroin. Now, why won't the government acknowledge crack heroin? Because it cuts through methadone. Methadone is the mainstay of drug treatment in America. It's what they offer, methadone. The government funds say methadone is what we have for heroin addicts. Crack heroin cuts through methadone. It makes it ineffective as an opiate blocker. You know what that means? That means that if this was acknowledged by the government, which it will be because it's being published, it was also, it's being published in the court, but now it's being in the federal lawsuit. This demands that the government undertake more effective AIDS prevention and more effective, really, drug treatment and more drug education, more effective drug education. Addicts have to be told that the stuff they're doing contains lidocaine and procaine that can give them a heart attack. They should be told that right off. Plus, what are you going to do? If methadone doesn't work, it's the main thing that's available. Ibogaine. Don't you see the importance of this? Now I'm talking, we've been doing this for 20 years. I got arrested 6 times in New York on purpose with heroin. This article in today's Post says a mandatory jail sentence if you get arrested with Class B narcotic. 6 times in New York I got arrested, so angry, right? Dismissed every case. I got arrested in New Haven, where the AIDS Brigade, had a headquarters, one of our headquarters. The police said, I commend you, you're a better man than me. The assistant DA, or the investigator, the probation officer, slammed the desk and goes, someone had to do this. The DA said, everybody knows, nobody cares, dismissed. 3 times in Boston, I brought stuff to the police station, and I ended up going to grand jury and everything, dismissed. Because we were going to use a necessity defense. We were going to bring in the legal experts, we were going to bring in, here's what we were going to bring in. If you go, you see the Kennedy pages, letters from Kennedy. But if you go to, I'll show you the exact chemical now, if you go to page IMC, you can see the exact, how the chemical changes. Okay, this is in a lawsuit that has the whole 9 yards. Officially how lidocaine and procaine change the morphine molecule. So a scientist at Harvard University, I snuck in there, it's radioactive material, they threw me out. I snuck back in there again, I said, who's the smartest guy here? They pointed to a guy, he stopped this experiment, he looked at that morphine molecule, lidocaine molecule, procaine molecule. I told him the story, he said, only a small amount of the morphine changes. I said, about 5%? He said, yes. When they process this heroin with lidocaine and procaine, only a small amount of the new drug is created. But that drug can kill you quick. It's a much more deadly. Same with fentanyl. Analogs of fentanyl, some of them 1,000 times stronger than just this original fentanyl molecule. All you can get on the East Coast is crack heroin. Now here's why. Dominicans and Colombians control the East Coast. The California Mexican Mafia controls west of Chicago. All right? The Colombians bring their most heroin in, they soak it in solution in Colombia, dip clothes in it, smuggle the clothes in the United States. Dominicans re-dip the clothes here in solution, then the heroin comes out, but then they add lidocaine and procaine, heat it up, they dry it in tubes. So now they sell heroin in fingers. 10 grams is a finger, because you see where they push it out. The bottom of the finger is flat. They push the tubes out after they dry it of this new drug. All you can get on the eastern seaboard of the United States is crack heroin. Methadone doesn't work as an opiate blocker. There's nothing we could do except Ibogaine. Now the man Jason Farrell, right? He came up here and said, needle exchange. We started the first program in 1986 in Boston, New Haven. In 1987, we were in New York. Jason Farrell came by with another guy, Alan Clear. We told him the story about crack heroin. They call it Pete Funk in New York, Pete in New Haven. We gave it the name crack heroin because it's more of a generic name, but it's analogous. It's more insidious than crack cocaine because it was disguised. People think they're doing regular heroin. This is a national emergency. These people heard it. That was 15 years ago. Have you ever heard of it? No. We've been to conferences, we've been arrested, we've had it in the news. In here, there's a newspaper article, okay? This is on IMD. All right, that's one of the shows, a newspaper article about bringing crack heroin to the police station. So you know what the head narcotics guy in the city said? Oh, there's been lidocaine and heroin for 25 years, which is true. The date that article 25 years previous to that date was 1978 when it came out, which is true, because there's always New York adults coming up here. So I sent him a letter that said, okay, you're quoted as saying for 25 years there's been lidocaine with heroin. Since that time, since 1978, you've made thousands of heroin arrests. Have you ever found lidocaine with that heroin? In any of those arrests, have you ever found, this is the next page, it's called IME. Has there ever been lidocaine found with the heroin? No. There's no answer, but the answer is no. You know why? It's being protected by the government. This is a national emergency. You have information you know, which is part of the federal lawsuit. It's documented how it works, how it changes the molecule. It's a national emergency, and one of the biggest things is that babies. This gives you a quicker habit, a stronger habit, more needle sharing, more overdoses, but the needle sharing, it transmits more AIDS. And these women, these men are having sex, and they're having babies with AIDS. One time in City Hospital here, there were 22 babies in the hospital. 21 were black and 1 was white with AIDS. So we protested outside with signs. We've been protesting and protesting. We started in 1986. What year is it now? So how many years have we been trying to bring attention to crack heroin? Now, do I think anything's going to happen after this meeting? Maybe because it's reaching a broader audience. But instead of being bitter over what's happened to us in Boston, the competition for funding, it forces us to go elsewhere. That's why we went around the world in Africa. But in Africa, this person who's supposed to come to this meeting, he's not in, Charles Rousseau. They introduced me to him because he gives Ibogaine. This is great. Now someone in South Africa in Johannesburg can help treat the exchange recipients. He got money off us, he screwed us. I mean, that's how it's been for years and years. We don't get bitter about it, we get stronger. So right now you have information in your hand that explains a national emergency. And the only cure that I know is abstinence, which is really hard to do, Ibogaine, and then the aftercare with the Ibogaine. So this book here, I said it was self-published, but the Yale Rumpus wrote a story about it. They called it, they said, a brilliant opus magnum, Magnus, whatever. And then Barnes and Nobles said that they had copies for new, and you could get it at a discount if you joined the book club. Barnes and Nobles never had any copies. For 2 years in the Barnes and Noble website, this book was saying, oh, you can buy a new copy of us. You get a discount if you join their book club. This book is a powerful, powerful book. If you look on the internet, the average price is like 20 bucks, 30 bucks. I seen it sell for 70. These are brand new copies. That was all used copies. So what you have in your hands, if you want to grab the books, you can turn it on and put it on the internet. Look up bookfinder.com, and you'll see 30 bucks, 50. But I've seen 70. So I'm just giving it to you because right over here is the window on page 50 that I almost jumped out. And the first and last sentence of this book say MK Ultra. Okay? And if you're interested in Kennedy, Senator Kennedy's dying, I sent him a copy of this lawsuit. 3 weeks later, he announced he's writing a memoir. Because part of this lawsuit states that they used to give MK Ultra drugs to students, the kids. I took it and I went near the water and I panicked. Then a man appeared out of nowhere and said, stand up. I was only waist high water. And I goes, help, I'm drowning, I'm drowning. And the man, he didn't have a suit jacket. The man just came out and said, stand up. They tested this on people, on kids. They tested it on prisoners, they tested it on disappearance, but then they did it widespread that you couldn't buy anything, any marijuana or LSD in this area that wasn't made in a laboratory in Cambridge, the Arthur D. Little Company. This came out with congressional hearings. That's what this book has, right? So that's why I'm happy that I survived that, and just looking right across where I almost killed myself, right to the building where, this could have been the same room. The fucking window's right there. So I'm a happy guy, but I'm an angry guy because people care about money and their own fucking self-worth and prestige, and they don't give a shit about human lives. But I'll just make the point clear. Hundreds of thousands of dollars were given out from New York Needle Exchange. There was a blizzard, I think, in '95. We drove down from Boston, picked up people in New Haven, went to New York. The addicts were waiting in the blizzard, a fucking record blizzard. They're waiting for the needle exchange with all this money. Nobody showed up. We go to Harlem first, then we go first Bronx, then Harlem, then Manhattan, then we go to Brooklyn. Only needle exchange program that showed up was the AIDS Brigade. What about all those people who got all this money? All these programs, all hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, it was too cold for them to go out. But there were addicts waiting for their needles. So that's why I don't really go to conferences. And I want to just say, Kevin Franciotti, that put this on students, Franciotti, Students of Sensible Drug Policy, Dana Beal, should be applauded. But Dana Beal has funded our Africa work. He always gave us places. Dana Beal, and then Northeastern should really, commend it. But you have in your hands something that's part of a law that's going on now. I'll take any questions. I hope I didn't talk too fast.
Are there any online observers or listeners who would like to ask questions right now as we watch you, the stream go through?
I'm curious why they add the propane and lidocaine to the dope.
Well,
It's a speedball.
Somehow, I think people used to sell cocaine as fake cocaine.
Because lidocaine really, it doesn't really have.
No, but I'm saying people used to have cocaine was used to be legal in head shops. So people would buy that and sell it as fake cocaine. So maybe someone will try to make a speedball one day, right, and then discover something. We don't know. What we know is that they added nitrogen to the morphine molecule. Only a small amount of what they process, like I say, the scientist said 5%. When I said to him 5%, he said yes, but it could be 2%, 6%. A small amount of this is a new deadly drug. It's much more deadly than morphine, and it can kill you quick.
Is that when you shoot or?
No, if you snort, but if you shoot, you can get a heart attack. If you snort too, it can get bother you. But that's why the old bags used to be bigger. They only have to use a small amount of heroin now. That's why you get a quicker tolerance. When I first started using drugs, it took 2 months for me to do a whole bag. It took 2 months to get a habit. This gives you a habit in a week. If you've been doing it before, you get the shits in one day, you get a habit in 3 days. This gives you a quicker habit, a stronger habit. People doing 40, 50 bags at a time. And there's more overdoses, more AIDS, more hepatitis. This is a national emergency. If you bought a bag now, there'd be lidocaine, propane, or something in there with the nitrogen that will change, and that has changed that morphine and that sample and the heroin. Now, is anything going to happen about this? Maybe. You have it in front of you, something that it's in a federal court. You have the information. It's all there, 100% of how the drug's made, the lawsuit about the people suing the government and getting the money. When the lawsuit said the government was giving it all, everything's in the what I handed out to you.
Can you tell us again how to detect that? Cocaine or dangerous?
It all has all the heroin on the East Coast. The country's divided in half. The California Mexicans have Chicago, the West. Dominicans and the Colombians control the East Coast. Colombians smuggle the heroin. I mean, there's always, like, there was some Vietnamese dope in Boston 6 years ago. It lasted like 3 months before they busted it. If anything new shows up, it lasts a little while, but virtually all the heroin on the East Coast is crack heroin. We've tested samples from Maine to Key West. This guy had a Key West.
You said pins and needles. What are the other?
Well, the pins and needles and shakes. But if you do a little bit, you get pins and needles. That's a bag that's been. These aren't chemists who are making it. These are guys who just they take the clothing, they put the clothing in solution, they dry the solution, they heat it up, they dry it, they get the heroin back. But before they heat it up, they add lidocaine and propane, heat the solution, process it, and they dry it in tubes. So now dope is sold in fingers. 10 grams to a finger, that's how they sell it. Now it's in rock form. Just because it's rock doesn't mean it's so great, because it's all coming out in the tube.
Someone's asking the question.
Yeah, I was just going to read this. It says that there's a question for John. Who started the lawsuit and where are they suing?
We're suing the federal government, and we're also suing some private individuals. This lawsuit started because Whitey Bulger, who's the second most wanted man in the country after Osama bin Laden, the $2 million reward for Whitey Bulger, he was an MK Ultra participant in prison. That's a fact. We know that. How can a man escape capture since 1995 when he took off? Because it made him paranoid. It heightened his awareness. It made MK Ultra people, they medicated themselves with heroin. I became a heroin addict because of MK Ultra. First I drank alcohol, I did everything else, right? Then I shot heroin because it made you really paranoid. You felt like someone was trying to control your mind.
So you were a test subject of MK?
Well, we thought, thousands of people in this area were. That's what the lawsuit states. That's what this book states. We thought it was the communists. We never thought our government would do this. We thought Russia or China was trying to control our minds. But now it's come out in congressional hearings that it was our own government that did it. And
last night it was on Coast to Coast. They were talking about it last night.
well, most of it was done in the Boston area. Nixon really hated though, because a lot of protests in the Boston Commons and also the Kennedy family. Timothy Leary's quote is saying 99% of MK Ultra happened in the Boston area, like Cambridge, Boston, and stuff down the Cape.
There's some other questions on the forum about fentanyl, and I I'm not really
You
sure.
know, that
what
stuff
it's
comes around, but it goes away. I mean, fentanyl comes around as overdoses, but those people get busted.
That's China White then, fentanyl?
No,
or
fentanyl is a chemical.
China White's some kind of very pure heroin.
Yeah, so,
Fentanyl is super strong heroin, super strong morphine.
Yeah, I think people
As
were
opposed
asking
to
about
weak,
that.
and heroin is like 3/4.
so if people have in their hands, they have a national emergency.
Yes.
If you think, we'll see what happens, you know, I mean, you have something in your hands right now that shows, it's in a federal lawsuit that shows. So what they asked me, why this lawsuit? Well, the question was why, who did the lawsuit? I did this lawsuit because the FBI called me in. My brother saw this gangster kill 2 people, and he's with me. And the FBI called me and asked me about some criminal matters. If I would have told the FBI what they wanted, I would have told them if I knew, because I felt proud being called by the FBI, I'd be dead. So that's my conspiracy to murder. Then they put a federal seal on my brother's information, like obstruction of justice. It's 119 pages right here, the lawsuit, stamped, federal court, bang, bang. This was brought in because of Kennedy. I was allowed to bring the crack heroin in because Kennedy helped us. And I have an appendix of Kennedy, and then I was allowed to, that's how I got the crack heroin information through Kennedy. Kennedy's office, we brought 50 people to Kennedy's office who were Emma Kelter victims of wheelchairs, crutches, you know, people who survived, right? He wouldn't even see us because, you know, it filled the whole lobby up. So then I said, okay, we really respect you, Senator Kennedy. Let's work on something that's more important, crack heroin. So they worked with us, right? They wrote letters. As soon as they met with the DEA, they cut us off. The DEA, our government is part of this problem. Our government, when I have in there about the $1.5 million settlement for those two people, right, that sued the government, those are 2 cops who tried to take a duffel bag with $500,000 that was being given to the president of the Dominican Republic. These 2 cops tried to grab the money, and the CIA State Department stopped them. And they got blackballed, they got screwed. So they filed a lawsuit that says that the government is allowing this gang to deal drugs, and they won. And that's what that's mentioned in here. That's the New York Times article. So everybody's tired, right? In your hands, you have something that can help effectively change. See, needle exchange was the same thing. We were clinking their armor. The government's been against needle exchange because it shows, you know, they have laws against needles. It shows their laws, some of the laws might not be right. So, you know, we've been fighting for that issue for years. We made needles legal in America. It was illegal in 11 states. We got arrested in every state. I've been arrested 40 times for needles. We pushed it everywhere. Now we're in a campaign to bring attention to crack heroin. So you have it in your hands. It's a national emergency. And methadone doesn't work, so that says Ibogaine. Ibogaine works. Ibogaine is needed.